All right, nobody's signing up. I say we go for it. What do you say? All right. All right, everybody, if we want to find a seat, we're going to start this meeting right on time because we got a lot to do in 2.5 hours. It's like nobody's out there signing up, so we're in good shape. Wait for Neil to find his chair. It's okay, Neil, we'll all wait. There we go. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. My name is Brandon Swanson. I'm the Director of Community Planning and Building here for the City of Carmel-by-the-Sea. On behalf of City Council, the Mayor, the City Council members, our boards and commissions, and our illustrious City Administrator who's sitting right over here. Thank you all for coming tonight. It's been 20 years since we had one of these community meetings to go over the Design Traditions project. And I'm really excited to be a part of this. The purpose of the workshop tonight is to gather information. That's what we're here for. We're here to talk about things, work collaboratively, and come up with some ideas of how we might, as a collective group, polish, refine, however you want to call it, our collective design guidelines to help protect the village 10, 20 more years into the future. So that's what we're here for tonight. It's a hands-on exercise going to be led by Nori Winter here to my left, and I'll do some introductions here in a little bit. The exercises you're going to work on tonight were carefully thought out and crafted by Nori and his team in collaboration with my team and our steering committee, who I'll introduce in a little bit as well. So please get down, get dirty, get into the exercises. They're really well thought out, and you'll see that as we get into them. I do just want to say tonight's not an open mic night. We do have mics here in the middle of the room, and we may be looking for some feedback, but tonight's focus really is to stay on our exercises. There's going to be a lot of community meetings along the way. We're going to have multiple planning commission meetings, city council, more of these community workshops. So we're not really taking testimony tonight other than focusing on the exercises. So I just want to put that out there because we have to get through a lot in 2.5 hours, but I'm sure we can do it. And we've got these wonderful facilitators around the room that I'll introduce in a little bit will help us with that. So what's next after we do this? We're going to take the information, we're going to work with Nori and his team, who are going to do the heavy lifting to synthesize it into a direction for what we're going to do with the design guidelines. And Nori's going to work with my team. We're going to work with the steering committee, who's going to be with us through this entire project all the way until March of next year through adoption. The team isn't changing all the way through. So then the next community meeting, when we're all going to see each other, we're going to be coming to you with the direction. We're not going to be coming with drafts or final drafts or anything like that. We're just going to be coming with, here's what we heard you say at the community workshop or the online surveys we do afterwards. Did we get it right? So we're not moving fast on this. We really want to take our time. We want to get all the input that we can and make sure we're headed in the right direction. So that's what's coming next. A little bit of housekeeping. As I mentioned, this is going to be a pretty snappy meeting. We've got the agenda on the table for you of the exercises. There's the agenda on the wall. We're going to help move it through quickly. The facilitators are here to help with that as well. Restrooms, if you need them, there's one right outside the door here, and there's some up the stairs if you haven't been here before. This is a mask on meeting. You'll probably hear from a couple facilitators in the evening, but because it's a city meeting, we have to have our masks on. That means nose and mouth covered. Please stick with that. If you need to take a break, go outside, get some fresh air, no problem. It's a pretty open, free-flowing evening, so feel free to do that. The biggest thing for me to remind everyone is to just be respectful and kind and open to the people that are at your table and the tables next to you. If you hear something that maybe you don't agree with, let it flow. That's what we're here for. This is meant to be open, collaborative, friendly. I guarantee you with this many people in the room, we're not all going to agree. It's just how it works, but that's how it's supposed to work. That's how local government works. And I'm really happy to see how many people turned out tonight. So please just keep that in mind as you're going through. Be respectful, be collaborative, listen as well as talk. That would be wonderful. So with that, I'd just like to take a quick second to introduce everybody, and then I'm going to turn it over to the man, the myth, the legend, Nori Winters. So could my whole team just come up to the front of the room really quick? So I'm going to start as you're coming up this way. So to my right, one of our steering committee members, Victoria Beach. Jamel Laurie is your city's building official. Leah Young is our administrative coordinator in community planning and building. Don Goodhue here on my right, another one of our steering committee members. We've got Sullivan Carey Lang is our permit technician and community planning and building. Marnie Waffle, our principal planner. If you guys could raise your hand just so there you go. Catherine Wallace, one of our planners, our long-range planner that we just brought on board. Saray Nathan, another one of our planners, and Evan rounds out the planning team there. We have Melanie Billig, wonderful lady there. Melanie, you want to give a wave to the crowd? There you go. Doug Schmitz down there on the end. We also have Julie at the very end there. Julie is the other half of the team that's been helping us here. Julie has been doing a wonderful job. I think I got the entire team. So these folks are going to be floating around the room all night. If you need something, that's why we're wearing these snazzy vests. Grab us. If the person that you grab doesn't have the answer, they can come talk to me. They can come talk to Nori, Julie, and we'll get it for you. So if you're confused about a question, or you need some help getting unstuck, or you just want to ask something in general, please reach out to us. So with that, it is my great pleasure to welcome Mr. Nori Winter. Probably needs no introduction, but he was here 20 years ago, plus helping us with this. So Nori, take it away. So glad you're here.
Thanks. I can't help wanting to hum. It was 20 years ago today. I was thinner, Chip had hair, and some people have never aged, which really kills me. But anyway, it's great to be back. And we have been working on a series of activities, but there are a couple little reminder notes I want to say too before we get going here. I thought I had retired until Chip called me and convinced me, reeled me in back to my desk here for this project. And it's exciting to come back and see a community where people care so much and where it is so unique. That's a challenge for us. We've worked across the country, and I'll show you my frequent flyer map in a moment, but we work in a lot of special places, but then there are the special places that are just sort of beyond other kinds of measures. And that's what Carmel is. And I know that's why you're so excited here to be here this evening. We're going to be asking some pretty focused questions in these activities that are planned for you. We're not going to be able to cover all of the topics that may be of interest or concern to you tonight, but there will be plenty of time, as Brandon said, for that to happen. And in particular, there is a sheet on the table for each of you to write in your own individual thoughts. One side tracks the activities we're going to do tonight. So if you have an opinion that's different from that of your table and you don't feel you got heard, you can record it. The other side is open-ended for things that we didn't discuss tonight that you want to be certain this project addresses. And if you need a continuation sheet, we can certainly provide you one for that. The other part is there will be more online engagements, and there are people participating this evening online. And there will be some others that will be exclusively online in between some other hands-on workshops that'll be coming up. In terms of participating tonight, we'll be asking you as teams to discuss an item that's put before you. And we have a series of sheets that'll be placed on the table in sequence. We don't want to clutter it any more than it is. So we're only going to give you one piece at a time. And we're asking you to look for points of consensus, and then also to write down things where there isn't consensus. And we've structured the workshop so that you can record that, but you also have those individual sheets to be able to add comments as well. I do also want to mention we've illustrated a lot of things with photographs of the community, and your house may show up, and it was totally random. We're not criticizing or complimenting. They're here to help stimulate thought, so please don't take it personally if in one of the activities someone puts an X next to your house. It's useful information, and it'll help us understand how people feel. We also have some activities where we've used images from other communities. Now, this is really risky here because we know you cannot just drop something in from San Diego into Carmel. But we're hoping we can learn in some cases from some of those images. If you look at it and say, well, it could if this were changed, or no, not a never, then that's useful information. but maybe there'd be one there that you'd say, well, yes, it could if it were modified this way to be more of a Carmel home. So please don't take it that we think we could import something from Boulder, where we're from, and make it work here. It's to learn. And there are lessons that we can learn from that. And then finally, of course, while we're talking serious business, let's enjoy the evening. Let's do the best we can in terms of having some fun. The scope of this project is to update the residential design guidelines, which we did work on some 20 years ago, and also to update the commercial design guidelines, which we didn't work on, but we are going to now incorporate into this project. And along the way, there may be some updates to the zoning code that are needed. Maybe some of the things that are guidelines need to be codified, or maybe some of the numbers in the code need to be adjusted. We don't know yet, but we'll begin to learn that from you. And of course, community engagement throughout. This is what I've been doing for the past 20 years. These are all the communities that we've worked in, and only 2 states were not wise enough to retain Winter and Company. But we've learned a lot over the years with these other places about how people care about their communities and some of the tools that can be used to help manage character and manage change in a way that's compatible. Again, that doesn't mean we can copy paste any of that, but we can bring that information to the table and see how it might relate here. Brandon already introduced the team. The staff will be doing a lot of work throughout this project. They've agreed to take on a lot of assignments, particularly field work that we need done in between our visits. And they'll be working on some of the technical revisions, such as the zoning code. Winter and Company will be guiding the project. We'll be leading the public workshops, and we'll be helping to generate the actual documents themselves and the graphics related to them. And our hardworking steering committee is a sounding board. It's not that they are they're not drafting the material. They're acting as representatives of the community to be certain that we are hearing from everyone and or that what we are generating is understandable. So look to them as your allies, and they are here to help. In addition to public workshops that are planned, there will ultimately be work sessions and then hearings before the Planning Commission and the City Council. Now, this is not starting from scratch, and that's the beauty of it all, partially because we have a little bit of pride of authorship. We think there's some good material on the table already in the existing guidelines, and I will want to remind you of some of that in a little bit of the presentation this evening. But there also are some new materials and new events that have happened in the past 20 years. State laws, for example, related to housing that weren't around 20 years ago. Issues about sustainability, energy efficiency and generation that were being discussed, but aren't at the level of discussion that they are today and or requirement in some cases. And we know that there's been some preliminary work that a working committee of the Planning Commission worked on a few years ago as well. So there's a lot of other new information that has to be put into the hopper as we work on the updates. Now, here's a rogues gallery of those who were stirring up trouble 20 years ago. And we are trying to replicate some of the excitement and the information that was collected during that time. You may recognize some faces here. Some of them have gone on to a higher public meeting, but others are still in the room, I can see, ready to contribute great ideas again. There also were some publications we generated, which were background materials, which were not formally adopted, but helped inform the process. And one of those I'm going to talk about a little bit in a minute, which is called the city's design character, because I think there's a lot of good information in there that would help in being used today and maybe should be brought forward. And I want you all to think about that. The 2 documents that are in place and are in use right now for the residential parts of the city are these 2 documents that relate to 2 steps in the design review process. The concept level it's called, and then the final review level. And then there are the commercial guidelines I referenced. We're not going to be addressing those tonight, if you have fun tonight and want to come back tomorrow, you'll get your chance to discuss downtown. The sequence is designed, as Brandon alluded, to a series of let's move forward progressively, check in with the community and move forward to the next step and then check in again. So we are right now at, in this list here, step number 3. Julie and I have been on site a couple of times working with staff in the steering committee, just getting to understand the existing regulations, familiarizing ourselves with the physical setting again, and outlining what we were going to do for tonight. Based on that, we will develop this strategy report outlining the recommendations for revisions that we think should be considered. We'll bring that back to you for discussion again. There then will be a draft of the revised documents, and those will also then be brought back in a third workshop with the community, and then we'll move into the final drafting phases after that, and ultimately adoption phases, all of which of course are open for public participation. Just to summarize those though, that there are 3 key hands-on workshops, this being the first one. Now, in addition to that, as I mentioned, there also will be online activities, and we'll touch on those at the end of the day. Now, to move into the residential guidelines a little bit before we get into our first activity, I wanted to remind you or point out some of the key guidelines that are in there today. This will be helpful, I think, as we look at participate in the activities in terms of thinking about how would those guidelines apply to the question we've put before you, and or does that guideline not work, or does it need more clarity or more teeth? Right now, they're organized into a series of levels, and that idea of considering context, the setting of a project, whether it be an addition, a renovation, or a new infill building in the residential neighborhoods, that you consider different levels of context. And we'll talk about those in a moment. And now I hope this is not going to be a problem, because some of the graphics may not show up here. We've got a blank here, but the key point of it is the bullets, that this page that is a snapshot here is fit with the forest to provide a sense of discovery. That is, you don't get a full frontal view on a street in Carmel. You've got to walk it to get a sense of this house, the next house, this bit of landscaping. It reveals itself in space and time. A sense of connection to the street. Houses don't close themselves off from their neighborhood. They have walkways, they have gates, they have landscaping, they have a light, they have a sculpture, they have something that enhances the street and says, I'm part of the neighborhood. They're walkable, of course, but there is a range of diversity, and the guidelines address that, and a sense of craftsmanship, that things are well built, whether it's in detail or the overall character and quality of a building. It's interesting because I see some of the graphics here that are not showing up there. But again, an excerpt out of the guidelines has these points, that there is variety, modesty, and simplicity in the essence of a single family residence and its site here. And there's this quote also in the guidelines: while there is a wide diversity in design, it is the goal of these guidelines that each house draw from and contribute to its neighborhood by generously providing for open space and providing the city's traditions of simple homes set amidst a forest landscape. So this again is adopted documents. And I'm going to say, Brandon, we're going to maybe look at the slides. We ran this a while ago.
We did, yeah.
And this is all working. So I don't know why I'm not getting these things.
I blame Chip.
Yeah, that's Chip.
What are we trying to do? There's supposed to be graphics there on the side?
Well, yeah, what it is the pages that are copied out of the guidelines themselves
Let's just try going off of
are not reading.
This is classic workshop stuff, folks. Happens every time. We'll go to the store and go. And we might just have to deal with it. This one, right?
Yeah. Mhm. So we're running off of the,
Yeah, this is right off of your presentation. So,
when you copied it over.
no, this is off of your thumb drive right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
Hmm.
So just have to go with what we got.
we have to go with what we got.
Yep.
Well, it's going to discipline me to be shorter, which is probably good. So I do want to talk a little bit about this document, and we may not see anything more than its cover. We're going to post this online because this, again, was a document that was created at the time, envisioned to really be describing or helping to educate about what makes Carmel. It has a short history of development, talking about the evolution of different annexations that occurred and how that to some extent created different neighborhoods with slightly different character. It outlines a range of architectural styles and some of the key features of each of those styles. It shows how an individual block evolved, in some cases starting with a few houses that had several parcels. And then over time, additional houses were built in between so that you would get this range of periods happening along a block. Does this sound familiar? And then defining some of the key features of individual neighborhoods or contexts within the city, to some extent related to those annexation histories. You've got the central area, the golden rectangle, but you've got the mission tract as a different kind of place, for example, and or the northeast quadrant where things are a little bit different in their character. And then an activity about favorite streets that people did back then, and we're going to touch on that in a minute. Now, explain to me why these pages are working. I don't know. But so these are some sample pages of some of those highlights that I've just been alluding to. And we'll make this available to you because I really want to hear if people think this is still valid, if this is good material, because my initial thought is this probably ought to be brought into the guidelines documents for everyone to see and be part of the reference when you're considering a project. But I want to hear to see if you think that's true. So this is just a sample page out of the illustrations for styles, and a sample page of a listing of some of the key landscape features that were described. And then again, thinking about those different levels of character, talking about the characteristics of streets and what some of the key features are of them, that sense of discovery, for example, the canopy of trees, we all know about those sorts of things. But also other kinds of points. And this is all language from workshops. This is all quotes from people in the community. Then a discussion moving down to thinking about a site, an individual site, with relationship to some of the private landscape details and what they are like traditionally, and then moving into building form and size or scale, and then architectural details. So these are some of the features in this document that I want us to be thinking about. Now, we want to move to this first exercise, which is kind of a warm-up activity. And it is to repeat what occurred 20 years ago in terms of identifying what are favorite streets for you. On the table, you will be given a small copy of the original map that was done 20 years ago, where people map certain favorite streets. And this is the result of that. Now, we're not asking you to just copy that one, but it's there for reference if you want to see what people were thinking then and to what extent are things the same or not. What we're asking you to do is work with an aerial photo. If you all could start bringing these out, please. You're going to be each given this aerial photo, which was recently flown just a few months ago. And so it's relatively current for the city. It's a beautiful resource to have. And as a group, we want you to brainstorm what you think your favorite streets are. And you've all got pens. Messy is a rule of the day. Sketch and draw on them. Mark your own individual ideas on the map with one of the lighter pens, a ballpoint or a lighter pen, whatever you have. And then after about 5 minutes of doing that, we want you to start looking at which of those are ones that are rising to the top that several of you agree is a key or favorite street. And then we'll be providing you some Post-it notes where you can add comments if you want to explain one of your ideas about why you liked a certain street or what its features are.
Hey, folks, could we just finish up listening to the directions? I know it's really exciting. We got something really exciting in front of us. But do me a favor, let's just let Nori finish up with the instructions, if you would, please. Everybody.
There is a hard copy of the instructions also on your table if you want to reference that, but it's essentially these same instructions. Looking at the map together.
Ian, could you wait a second?
Brainstorm some of your favorite streets. With Post-it notes, tell us why. And when there's a consensus, use the bigger markers to highlight the key streets that lots of you at your table agree on. But everyone gets to scribble their streets first in the lighter pens. Okay? Start your engines.
All right, thanks everybody. And for those that are on Zoom, you're going to be broken out into 2 separate online meeting rooms. We have 2 wonderful staff members that are going to help you through the exercises, and we'll bring you back in when we're done.
Well, as I said, sometimes PDFs misbehave.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of those are PDFs, so that's what I don't know.
Like, it's ridiculous.
Now I'm on. Okay. We have about another 8 minutes. You need to be working now with the big markers, putting down the main streets that as a group you're saying are of value. We're going to have some of you hold them up in a minute, so it needs to be strong enough for the room to read. So get out the big colors and start thinking about highlighting those that you all tend to agree upon as the favorite streets. And be certain to use the Post-its to explain, because we'll be studying that later. Okay. Victoria is the talent scout for Carmel's Got Talent. And she's been looking for 3 maps to show and tell. So Victoria, who's our first victim?
This table's very active with their scribing.
Okay, all right. So this is table number what? Where's your table 10? And be sure, oh, which is a reminder, you need to write your table number on the corner of your map so we can link the suspects to the crime. So, I'm sorry again, what's this table number? 10. Table 10, stand and deliver. We need a couple people to hold up the map and someone to explain your favorite streets very quickly, please.
Who's going to be your spokesperson? You've been nominated, Cal. Someone else got to take it. All right.
Standing up. Hello. Okay, never shy. Okay, well, 7th Avenue was mentioned because I live on it. You see, I love my street. And somebody else said the same thing. Don, you said your favorite street was.
Because I live on it.
And it's beautiful and he chose it. I mean, that makes sense. And so where's our little map? All that disappear. Okay, right here. So perhaps I should mention all of this. San Antonio south of Ocean was a favorite of who chose that one? Just we all agree on that. Okay. San Antonio.
And why was that?
Ocean.
Why did you guys choose that?
You know, I think it's the architecture of the home. I don't like the street. It's fast and I would never walk on it, but the homes are lovely on San Antonio. I think architecturally it's superior to some other home streets.
Right. And what another street?
Well, I mentioned 7th Avenue, but you know, it is shaded. It's a quieter street. I think sometimes our streets have to do with if there's so much parking, if there's so much traffic, we don't necessarily want to enjoy that street. And that doesn't have to do with the architecture. And I think you're looking for comments on the architecture. So these comments was the loveliest homes have peaked roofs, arched doors, Carmel stone, curly oaks, lovely gardens, and that's just my particular
and that's 7
things. Yes, so that's
that's a wonderful descriptor. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Who's our next victim?
Who's the next one, Victoria? Table 2.
Put this down, then I'll take that.
Where are you? Okay. Brandon, over.
Where are
in
we
the-
at? Table 2, where are you at? Put your hand up for me. Where'd you go? Here we go. Okay, who has this? Oh, yeah, brave soul.
All right, well,
I'll do this again for you since I've got the height advantage.
oh, sure. So we had a lot of favorite streets, scenic, rising to the top naturally. And we almost just colored in the whole golden rectangle and Santa Rita, Guadalupe. But some really common design elements that kept coming up were just the variety in architecture and landscape, the design elements, just that integration and connection between the homes and the street. So we kind of favored streets that didn't have sidewalks, that really didn't have formal gardens, just kind of that natural flow. Also really liked streets that had tree medians and lots of landscaping. And just those classic Carmel design elements of Carmel stone, batten and board, shakes and shingles overall. So, and then also nod to some inventive homes on Santa Rita and older homes on Guadalupe.
Wonderful. Okay, that's very, very helpful. Okay, number 5, where are you?
I'm coming. You guys nominate your spokesperson while I'm crossing the room here. Oh, Tim, of course, Tim. Here we go. Tim, oh, Tim, you're up. I'm the holder. You're the talker. Here you go. Trying to take my job from me. There you go, Tim.
Okay, so I'm gonna need a little help here for the separate area. One of the areas is over here. What is that, like first, second, fourth? Lopez, stuff like that. I know what we call it, but great area. We like to say it's at slopes, so there's nice views and reduced traffic and a lot of pathways and diversity in the buildings, architecture. Scenic, meandering street, architectural diversity, underground utilities, one of my favorites, and nice trees. And then part of the golden rectangle, diverse character, old and new buildings. Can't make out that last one. Oh, integrated. So, right, yeah, we were talking that there's a lot of construction going on in that area and good integration of old with new. Is that right, Neil? Okay, great. And then this area up here, this came from you guys. Maybe you could explain this a little bit better.
Mainly because of the way the streetscape go and how they're integrated into the, how the houses are integrated into the streetscape and how it nestles into the forest. That's pretty unique in one of the unique areas.
Okay, great. Well, this is a good start. We will be analyzing all of the tables. Don't worry. And those of you who didn't get present on this, I'm keeping track. So you'll be up for one of the other activities to report on, but we will be evaluating all of this material as well as that's coming in from online. So moving on, Brandon, how do I get this going again?
All right. What do we got going on here? Let's do this. And that. Okay, and then do you want to end the breakout rooms, bring everybody back for the instruction? Okay. Okay. Sebastian, how do I make the breakout room?
Oh, excellent. Good.
Not exactly sure how to get that to go away. Hey, Sebastian, how do I get there's a little menu, breakout room menu on my screen.
I think it's to the, where's your mouse? Oh, there we go. Sorry about that.
The secret part of the computer that only the IT guy knows about.
Job security.
And then Sebastian, can I get back to this now? There we go. Okay.
Well, but can I jump to the,
Flip through.
oh, just flip through? Okay. Sorry. We have to do it that way. Okay. Speed reading. All right. Our next activity, thinking about streets now, is to move down and thinking about the landscape and in particular of front yards, from the right of way into up to the front of the house and how that's designed and which ones fit in. And are they, those that fit, are they universally fitting in any place in town, or do some front yard designs work in some neighborhoods but not in others? That's part of the question we want to understand. So what are the essential ingredients to what makes a classic Carmel front yard landscape is part of the question here. What do the guidelines tell us today? They talk about the fit with the topography, minimizing cut and fill, to maintain the sense of a forest as the foreground, to provide for an informal roadway edge, to have a progression of spaces from the street edge to the property line, to the yard, to the porch or the entry to a house, that there's a kind of an experience there. To maintain views and privacy, and to minimize impacts of parking. We'll look at a couple of these again real quickly. I don't expect you to be reading the text, but it is just there to remind you, for those of you who have had an opportunity to look at the guidelines over the years. But a key one here is the guideline 1.4, which is to maintain a forested image on the site where it is consistent with the neighborhood context. So again, neighborhood context is a little bit of the question here. And you may want to tell us, as you get to see some different landscapes, yeah, this one works in this part of the city, but not here. And others you may say, no, never, ever, anywhere. One related to parking is to reinforce the forest edge, and that is to use soft paving materials, porous paving materials, those that are not necessarily hard to the extent feasible. And that also relates to the right-of-way. I will mention we're not going to be really talking too much about the right-of-way this evening. We are planning an online activity where people can talk about the design of the right-of-way and the landscaping there. But again, minimizing cut and fill, one of the objectives in the guidelines is to maintain that sense of a natural topography, to use small steps and terracing to the extent possible, as opposed to cutting a flat slab. To again, think about that idea of a progression of spaces. And sorry, this looks a bit dithered, but it is talking about in this illustration, this idea of having this sequential experience as you move through the landscape into the front of a house. And in some cases, it also refers to it as being a layered landscape, if you will. And also the fact that views are often filtered. They're not, again, a broad exposed view necessarily. You get a framed view, or you get something where there's a wonderful tree branch that's stretching across that view, but that is a part of the experience. And another objective here, which is not appearing for us, but again, it relates to the idea of driveways and using porous paving and minimizing the visual effects of driveways, combining them where they can be shared in some cases to minimize the amount of curb cut along the street as well. There are illustrations related to how you separate a walkway from a driveway to again minimize that sense of hard surface. And these are examples, although maybe not showing up too well, where in some cases we're thinking we can reuse existing illustrations that are still communicating the concept, but we'll freshen them up with color, because back then the document was all black and white. And so this is an example of our beginning to test that, although the screen's not being very helpful in that respect tonight. But again, these are some examples of that idea of sharing a driveway. Fences and walls, it addresses fences and walls and providing a sense of detail to them, and also incorporating them within the landscape, and where possible to consider using hedges as a way of defining, so that that sense of that flow of green is maintained. And as I mentioned before, to think about siting a building and also landscaping to maintain views for neighbors. Now, that's a variety of design variables to think about. And if you think about some of the big design variables for a house, they can apply to landscapes as well. But I wanted to illustrate it here, and we'll be using this later on to think about for a house design as well. there are a variety of variables. If they're all very, very similar to those seen traditionally, you definitely are going to have something that fits in, I think. And that's what this is suggesting, that if you have a house, if the form is very similar to those seen traditionally, if the size is similar, if the height is similar, if the materials are in range, if the openings, the doors and window patterns, the ratio of solid to void is similar, and if the colors are within the range of tradition, you're pretty much probably going to have compatibility. On the other hand, if you got to be different with all of those, you're probably not going to fit into Carmel. But somewhere along the way, there's a balancing of variables. If you stay small, maybe you can be a little bit different in materials. But to what degree is part of what we're going to try to learn, is how does that balancing, which can contribute to diversity, but within a range of compatibility that people seem to value. It could be that you're adjusting these variables in such a way that maybe the materials can be a bit different because the form and the size are all in line. The same thing is true of landscapes. And so I want you to keep that in mind as we move on to this next activity. So as the team brings out the next sheet, we're going to be asking you to think about what makes a traditional front yard landscape for Carmel. And you're going to see a variety of pictures to comment on in terms of, does it fit or not fit? And if so, why? There's room on the page to indicate your thoughts about that. We're asking that you discuss them again in general first with everyone. And then you, as you begin to see some that you agree on, you can indicate so with a check mark. If it's one that you say, yeah, this one fits, but you might say, yes, this fits, but only on scenic. And that's where you can add a note. Or you might say with an X, not here, ever. Or you might say, no, but if they did this, it would work. And that's all really important information for us to have. And then there's some that may just have a question mark, where as a table, you've really got different viewpoints about that one. And we don't need to hassle it all out. That's also good information to know that there isn't complete agreement. My suggestion is you're going to see as you get these sheets that you maybe go for the ones that are easy to decide on first, rather than having to go linearly, because you might get stuck on the first photo and not get very far. So kind of move quickly through them to discuss them, see which ones you think are, yeah, this one works, this one's good, or no, this one's not, and get those taken care of, so then you can have a little bit more time to deal with the ones that need a little bit more discussion. So let's start the clock now. We really need those out there now, please. You can leave the other poster on the table if you like, and just lay this on top of it.
It's your pop-up. So it's pop-up every time I do this.
Oh.
And grab it. Just tuck that away where it's not going to pop. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Everyone seems to be doing well. Need to be focusing in on getting ready here. You have 3 more minutes, and then Victoria is finding some new talent to show off. Because then they're going to report. So we will next one at 6 o'clock. Well, I gave him an alert a minute ago. One more minute.
I was really hoping for a nod.
Okay, Victoria. What we want 3 tables to present what they have found. So what's our first victim? Table 3. Table 3. Where's table 3? Table 3. Please hold up your poster for front yard design and tell us your findings, please.
I'll do the whole thing. You don't want to do it?
Were you going to describe each one? Is that what you want, Lori?
In general, just highlight a few of the ones that you had a consensus on.
The one on the top left, too artificial.
Too artificial, okay?
Next one, too formal, no forest.
Okay.
Next one we liked. Very well done. We like this one. Very well done.
And what are some of its
Village in a
features?
forest is the theme.
Village in the forest, okay?
We had a question mark on this one. There was too much landscape in terms of rock and kind of hid the fact that you could have put in vegetation. What was this one? Oh, this one's not a village in a forest either. It looks like it. There are some plants there, but they don't really fit into what we see they should do. This one here, there's, I want to be nice about that, but I don't want to. What should I say?
Yeah. So Ken, were there?
There's no buffer between the road and the house. There's no vegetation. There's this parking spot.
Ken, were there any that had a condition in terms of their location? That it worked in one place but not elsewhere?
No, we didn't.
No, okay.
Well, the bottom left, which is the beach, wasn't much difference between the two if you look at what. Okay, this one is there, and this one is excellent, forested, great fence, kind of set back off the road, nice buffer in front. This one is, our author says, not a village in the forest, okay, for the beach.
Okay.
Yes, 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 yes. And this one, too landscaped, too much, and not a variety of things, not a village in the forest. That's the bottom, second one to the right. Is underwhelming on this one.
Okay.
Okay, underwhelming. And then finally, too much hardscape in the front, not enough vegetation.
Okay. Thanks very much.
All right, who's
8.
next on the hit list
Table
here?
8.
Table 8, where are you at? Put your hand up for me. Table 8, where are you at? Oh.
I have the best table. They were so engaged. So, yes, yes, yes. I'll state the letter that we're talking about. So generally, my group was, they were, really engrossed in the village in the forest by the sea theme. So there were a lot of the photographs that were just too formalized. We've had this debate for years. Turf, my group found, is not consistent with that villaged, the forested village theme. Although I have two members of this table that are bookends. I have Wolfie, who lives on the far north end of the city, adjacent to Pescadero. So he looks into the canyon. And I have Stefan, who lives in the Mission Tract, which was the last element of our city that we annexed from Monterey County. And different field, different landscape themes as well. So from the top, we found that A was not consistent, much too formal, too much hardscape. Letter B, again, way too formal, too much similarity in the building materials, which is that facade, that fake stone facade, and then the pavers themselves. The boxwood being over pruned, again, really not consistent with our design traditions in landscaping. We found C was a yes, because it had that progression of different plant types. It had some color pop, and the oak trees out front were not over pruned. Small, very human scaled fence. So we couldn't see the rest of the garage. So we don't know how wide the driveway was. It looks like it's asphalt, so it's not going to perk. But those were some formalities. We thought D was a yes. We thought there was a good variety of plants, and you see an oak tree, baby oak tree. You see a Monterey pine on the left-hand side, so that was a yes. Had that layered effect. E was a yes as well. We liked the fact that in front of the Carmel stone wall there was adequate area to get some landscaping. I would contrast that one to, where's the other one? I, which was a maybe, but a very narrow area to even get any landscaping. So that was a maybe. F was an okay. And remember, again, we also regulate the amount of hardscape on a parcel, whether it can perk water. So Sunset pavers count the same as asphalt in our city. But we thought that one was okay. It was a good variety of plants, but again, we didn't see any upper or lower canopy trees there. G was a no. Again, this is a much more formal, something you'd see maybe in Pebble Beach with the turf and the pampas grass, et cetera. Also, Wolfie pointed out that there are no eaves on the building, so a very contemporary building form, just a kind of a squared off edge. H was a no because the oak trees are over pruned, so you see too much of the lid, too much of the roof. That was a no. I is obviously adjacent to the North Dunes, so you see native dune plants there, which look great in the winter, right? They look beautiful in the growing season, then they brown off. So we found that was a yes. J was just a yes. Again, a lot of natives and as a redwood tree, which is beautiful. We love that. K was a no. It looked like it was just wood chips, so we liked the split rail fence, but again, the English ivy and the wood chips just didn't. We didn't find consistent. Then again, L was a no because of the lack of landscaping in front of the Carmel. So thank you, teammate.
Okay, thank you. And so Victoria, last table, 11.
Where's
Where are
table
you
11
guys?
at?
Okay,
Down
over
here?
here, 11.
All right, making my way over. Who's going to speak for this table? Kelly?
We had the ones that we liked were, the ones that we liked were C, because of natural landscaping, colored trees, rustic, sense of discovery, variety of layers. D, the simplicity, natural trees, landscape dominates, filtered view of structure. And H, which was rustic, upper canopy trees, simple natural colors and materials. And then what we did this very individually, so we combined our opinions. The ones that we didn't care for as much were A, because it seemed too engineered, formal and chaotic. And G, where the flat lawn is a focus, lack of trees, landscaping seems jammed against the structure. And I, which is no trees, not the best of native plants, although I now understand that it's right on the beach, so that might be a consideration. Personally, we didn't talk about that much. So
Okay, thanks. Again, we'll be analyzing all of the reports, and this will all be very useful information in terms of understanding what defines the preferred kind of landscaping for front yards and where certain things work and where they don't in terms of locale. Now, moving on to the next activity. Is the screen gonna? Yeah. And looks like we may or may not have everything working for us here either. But now we want to look at building design. And again, look to what the existing design guidelines say. They emphasize 3 points in some of the introductory material. Keep the design simple, promote diversity of styles, and be consistent within an individual building are some of the initial design principles that are in the design guidelines now. Beacon, yeah. Don't mix styles in an individual building. Again, this is a mystery why some are working and some are not, but in any case, one of the guidelines is about building mass and form, and that is to keep building mass generally simple, but to break up the mass to help reduce its perceived scale at the same time, sort of finding a balance between that. And to, again, relate to the context and to reduce that sense of scale by using less floor area, locating some floor area fully or partially below grade, avoiding the use of tall volume spaces, and avoiding long uninterrupted wall planes. That's some of the guidance in the existing guidelines about building mass and the perceived scale of it. Similar ones related to building form are keep it simple with the objectives of maintaining the range of traditional building forms and promoting single building forms that fit within the neighborhood context. Again, that concept of fitting with context. Wonder what this one says, but it does talk about the range of styles that are seen in the community. And again, part of that is when they fit in is when some of those other basic design variables of form and materials and scale, et cetera, are consistent. There's guidance about having a restrained character and keeping building forms and materials and details simple and visually restrained. Then there is guidance about using materials, particularly those that are natural, and to avoid those that are clearly synthetic, although there certainly are new materials that appear like natural materials that may work. Similar guidance about roof materials, and that is to keep them visually subordinate as well, and to be consistent with the design of the architecture. There's also guidance about color, and those being generally earth tones and muted colors are those that are preferred and that will fit in best within the village character. There also is guidance about lighting and to use shielded lighting to minimize glare and to minimize light pollution in terms of the night sky. So those are some highlights of what some of the existing design guidelines address. So you know the drill now, but this one's going to be fun, and that is to look at a series of photographs of houses. Some are from here and some are not. And we're going to ask you again about what do you think fits in, and if so, why, and or what would be the conditions that would improve its fit. Now, in this case, we are zeroing in on one specific context rather than sort of saying, would this fit everywhere? We thought it'd be a little bit easier and we'd learn something if we talked about a particular context. And so the poster you get has a row at the top of a theoretical street. Well, it's a real street. And we removed a house in the middle. I'm sorry if it's yours. Don't worry. But the idea here is in that blank box, think about each of these houses and would it fit there? And if not, tell us why. And if so, tell us why. So again, as with the previous one, I'd recommend go for the ones that are easy first, sort of scan the whole page, talk about them quickly, and then zero in on the ones that you can make some consensus statements about. And otherwise, then tell us about the ones that are more difficult or have a lot of questions and issues. And remember, you have your individual comment sheet that if you have some thoughts that are not recorded, record them on that sheet, and be certain to put your table number on your individual sheet as well, so that we can link it to anything you might be commenting on in terms of those sheets. So let's get started with this last activity.
All right, everybody, just a reminder, keep working, but if you find yourself with a couple of spare minutes, don't forget about your individual sheets. We'd love to see everybody take the time to fill those out before you get out of here today as well. So don't forget about your individual sheets, please.
I mean, we still. Okay, good. Yeah, no, because We have about 5 more minutes, and then we'll have some reporting again. Some tables are already finishing. This is time for you to fill out your individual comment sheets. If you've already finished your poster. On the other hand, you might review the comments on the poster to be certain you can really sort of explain why you said what you said. One more minute. Okay. By now, you know the drill. Victoria has found some suspects. Table 4. Table
right.
4.
All right, where's table 4? Right here. Okay.
And for this one, use your judgment because there's several photos. You don't need to necessarily go through all of them. You might want to highlight some of those.
Okay.
Yeah, don't go through all.
Okay. So anyway, one of the great things about living in Carmel-by-the-Sea is just how wonderfully eclectic the architecture is. And you can go on any given street and have a very large variety of different architectural styles. So so here you've got 4 fairly traditional homes. So it'd be nice to plug in something more contemporary here. But unfortunately, most of the contemporary examples presented here are very harsh, megalithic. They might do well in other communities, but they really don't subordinate well to the forest setting, which is so key for a good home in Carmel-by-the-Sea, that it really needs to feel like an extension of the forest, or at least subordinate to the forest in most parts of the village, maybe not all parts of the village. For example, on H, that house is on Scenic, and it looks great on Scenic, and it's decidedly contemporary. Wouldn't do well in our infill site. We tended to gravitate towards G because of the buildings there presented. You had this nice gesture of the garage that kind of extended out towards the roadway. And so it had a unique massing that was different than the other 4 candidates there. But I think we all kind of settled on E here because you have a building that at first glance feels more traditional building materials. And yet you have this wonderful asymmetrical roof line, which is a decidedly contemporary gesture and sets off the other more traditional forms quite nicely. So it's decidedly a building that was built today, feels like a product of today, and yet it works well in the forest context.
Excellent, excellent. Love
Great
that.
summary.
That's
Love
very
it.
clear and understandable. Victoria, table 2, where are you?
Table 2, where are you?
Yoo-hoo 2. Okay.
Fred, you're talking because you raised your hand? No, nope. We wanted your comments on all of them. I'll trade you the microphone for the sheet.
So
Oh, boy. It's a new one for me.
we had a lot of similar commentary while we gravitated towards the more Carmel-esque forest feel ones. We did make notes on what modifications we would make to make it more in line with the design guidelines. You're welcome. So for A, we liked a lot about it, but except for the white fence. But really, to your point about the contemporary homes, we did find that M might work, even though it does deviate quite a bit. It does provide some architectural variety, and the landscape itself kind of softens that contemporary look. Another favorite, we particularly liked P. We thought that was kind of best in class with the fence and the integration, the see-through, lots of landscaping, and some other highlights. And yeah, we just kind of looked at it through the lens of color, landscape, form, and what would fit in, and also zeroed in on roof types. So we gravitated, except for M, we like the traditional roof types and the homes that had more articulation and dimension to them.
Okay, great, excellent. And 5, table 5.
Where's 5?
Where
Raise your
are
hand
you?
for me. Oh, man.
Oh. Well, I lied.
Repeat offenders, I guess. Okay, Cindy, are you going to speak? Yeah. One of us can hold it. Neil's got it? Okay.
Don't ever give me a microphone, you know that.
Get away.
Yeah, really.
There is a time limit.
Do you have the clock going?
Yes.
That doesn't work for me. Okay, we chose P, A, and G that would integrate on this side. And the reason being is that P had a nice design and good landscaping. It had a lot of the Carmel characteristics of the nice little windows and the shingle siding and a good landscaping in front. And A, wherever that is, A we liked, except that we agree the fence, the white fence is too much. It needs to be painted. And G, oh, we thought G was really a nice, simple design. The trees integrated well. The color of the house does really well with the trees. The fence isn't too high. They do have a low fence in front and then a stucco fence back here, which gives them some privacy. I agree with Ian about the modern elements. They may be okay in and of themselves, but they did not fit. Do you want me to go through any of the others? Is that enough?
No, that's enough. That gives us, it gives us a sense of flavor here. Okay, have you had fun this evening? Just been, okay. Good, well.
Can we all say thank you to Nori and
Yeah.
Julie, please, for putting this all together?
Can you bring this back up so I can type a bit?
So you can type?
Yeah, I want to be able to type in some things that we've been hearing, and I'm also going to ask a couple of our facilitators for some of their observations.
Just want
as
a Word
well.
document?
It's no the same at the end of that slideshow, or is a place for me to type in some things. I hope. No, let's see. You're in the walking tour. Somehow you got to the walking tour. Go to the end here. Yeah. There we go. So while we will, I can help me. No, that's the one I want. You're putting away. I'm just trying to be able to write.
Okay.
Get me the cursor on the text.
Hey, Sebastian, how do I get?
See, it's just doing, I want to just,
Because I don't want to blow it up. Who wants to be able to type in it?
just help me be able to type right there.
But for them to.
Yeah.
If not, I'll just verbalize it, but.
If you guys don't know, this is Sebastian. He's one of our city IT people and he's phenomenal.
Yes. Otherwise, I can verbalize it, but I think.
I think you got it. You're good. Perfect.
Am
Yay,
I ready to
Sebastian.
type? No, it's not typing.
Um,
It's, I'm back to, just get the cursor in there. It'll do something.
There you
There,
go.
hey, there's
There
my
you go.
man.
All right.
Okay. So these are some quick ideas that just a few things that we heard already this evening. And of course, there'll be lots more to summarize, but in terms of favorite streets, we heard the things that were valued was the combination of house and landscape on a street. It wasn't just the tree canopy, it was the way they worked together. Shaded and quiet, I thought was interesting. And the point being there that was walkable, pedestrian friendly. That materials were a part of the consideration, native materials, stone, etc. was a part of it. There was a reference to a mix of old and new, that diversity that we hear about along a street. And, but probably first and foremost was the theme of nestled into the forest. So those were some big ideas about, I don't know why, I guess I just don't know how to use this. Don't do anything. Do I have some sympathy in the crowd? See, I'm going to type on this slide
You're
now.
changing slides.
I want to. I
Oh, you want to? Okay.
I
There you
feel,
go.
yeah,
Okay, you want to type here?
yes.
Okay. There you go.
Why does it work for him and not for me? I don't get it. In terms of design for the front yard, the progression of materials in terms of scale and color was something that people talked about, and they spelled it better than I did, but that's all right. The considering the mix of plants and hard materials was a part of what worked and didn't work. Certainly that was natural, not nautical, but maybe. And again, those that contributed to the forest image. And the context, to some extent, may influence things, but it sounded like there were a lot of features that were universal, that were either yes or no in terms of being a part of Carmel. So those are some, again, from just what we heard, those top of mind kinds of things. And all right, I'm going to need you up again because I want to now do buildings. And I guess I just don't understand how this particular little.
Here comes a planner to help you, who's not an IT person. What are we trying to do here?
I want to write on this slide.
Okay.
Now.
I'm just doing it to mess with you.
It's working. Okay, in terms of buildings, an understanding of the interaction of the variables we talked about, that I could hear in the comments, that, you know, the size or the color or the form interacted with the materials, and that interaction was a key part of what fit in and what didn't in one particular place. Did hear a little bit about context making a difference, particularly scenic being an example there. Eclectic, and that's certainly to be expected as well. And I'm really looking forward to analyzing the individual posters and kind of looking for other themes and for the areas where there isn't consensus, because that means that's a topic we need to discuss next time around in some other forms of outreach. So those question mark ones, or the things where there's disagreement, those are going to be important ones for us to know. Real quickly, Victoria, did I lose you? Are you here? Any observations you want to make about tonight?
Well, I want to thank everybody for participating. I think it's probably, some folks commented, it's difficult to understand the importance of a citizen's role. I'm a trained architect. I didn't realize, Nori, when I first got here, and I was almost immediately on the planning commission, I pretty much witnessed almost both decades of the implementation of your design guidelines. And so I've been able to see how, both as an architect and as a member of the planning commission, and then on the council, how well they're kind of percolating through. And I just feel like this is this amazing opportunity to have the same person come back for us to tell him how it is that what we all, and I believe there's a lot of consensus. I feel like that's what I heard today, even though it might not feel like it's perfect consensus. There's so much consensus about the folks here in the room and what they feel about our village. And just to be able to get that even more clear in the design guidelines, so it becomes an even better tool as we work to preserve the village. So I just am really grateful both to for the input and also for Nori coming back.
Okay,
Thank
and you had someone else, Brandon, that you wanted to.
Yeah, thanks, Nora. I got a couple of the city staff too. I'd like to get some feedback on so we're going to start with Catherine, one of our newer employees, to find out what she heard online, because she was running, if you don't know what was happening, every time we'd go into the exercises, would break the online people from the Zoom into two little fake rooms over here. Catherine and Evan were running the same exercises for them online that you all were doing here in person.
Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine. So in my breakout room, I want to thank my participants. We had Alan and Gail Lehman, Dale Byrne, Jody Hansen, Rob Carver, Sarah Davis, and they had some great input. Everyone seemed to be pretty much on the same page when we were talking about our favorite streets and also about landscaping in the front yard. They thought that the favorite streets identified in the 90s really hold true today. And when it came to landscaping, they thought, let's avoid formal hedges that might look like crop circles when viewed aerially. There were some different ideas in activity 3 when it came to fitting in infill homes, but I'm sure that was the case at every table. And just want to thank my breakout room again for bearing with the tech and the noise. Thanks to my breakout room.
Thanks, Catherine. Then Nori, if I can do one more staff member who was in and around the tables. Aaron, our other newer, so I'm having our 2 newest employees, putting them in front of a whole group of people, forcing them to do this. But Aaron was walking around, getting his head in there and asking some good questions. So I wanted to hear from Aaron as well.
Thank you. First off, being new to this area, I just want to say, to me, it's amazing to see how many people have come out. I mean, I think we counted like 41 from that are here live, and then another 18 or so online. That's amazing, just to have that many people come out and to be that invested in their community to want to put their input in. I think it's amazing. And so as a new employee here, it's a really cool thing to see, and it gets me excited to be working here. So props to you guys. Thanks. But a lot that I saw with this is, it's interesting when going through all of the design, whether we're looking at the house, the landscaping, and the fit and form of these things. A lot of people did go back to that landscaping. Because there were some homes that I could tell that some people were saying, when we were talking about the form of the home and the design of the home, they'd say, well, I think it would work, but the landscaping's off, so I'm not going to check it. But you go, wait a minute, like, well, what did you like about it that you think it would work? Because the landscaping can change and you can do something. So it was kind of an interesting thing where you guys did come back to that village in a forest feel. And then the other thing that I did notice, and this is what's cool, as Bo is showing me around town, is there are these subtle diversities in Carmel that are really cool, where there are those beach houses that look, they would fit really well with the more native beach type plantings in front. And then you have these homes that are these cottages, and it's really neat to see. And I think the planning department did a great job, especially with that last the designing a house in Carmel and putting a house in between 2 other homes to see if they fit. So I think that was a really cool thing, and to be thinking about, you had a house design up on that first top line, and then you have so many different little places that you can change that. So anyway, thanks for having me be a part of it. It's awesome. Thanks.
Okay, Brandon, do you have any last minute comments?
I think my only comment, I think Nora, you captured a lot of the big ideas, and the teams that Victoria and Catherine and Aaron, and my big thing is just thank you. I mean, honestly, that's I think we got what we needed tonight. Everyone, thank you for bearing with us when we were trying to pull more out of you. I know I probably visited every table and at some point and said, okay, don't say no, that's fine, but tell us why no. What is it about? And I feel like we got that out of everybody tonight. So thank you for putting in the effort. We have the workshop tomorrow to talk about commercial. We hope everybody shows up again. So we encourage you to come, same format. And then we're going to have another workshop like this in a few months once Nori and his team and my team synthesize all the information from tonight. And then we're going to come back and put the direction of the project out in front of you. So we're not going to come back, like I said, we're not going to come back with a draft. We're not going to get that far down the road. We're going to come back and say, this is what we heard. This is where we think the project is going. Are we right? Are we wrong? Are we close? What do we need to do? So that's my message is thank you. And please continue to get involved with what we're doing here.
Have a good evening.
Thanks, everybody. If you didn't fill out your individual sheets, if you can give us 5 minutes and finish your individual sheets, we'd really appreciate it. We will be sending out some online surveys as well after this workshop. For those that couldn't come tonight, will be different questions. So please participate in those too if you would. Thanks, everybody.